Good morning. Welcome to the Celtic Way Morning Briefing Live. We're here eventually, but there you are. It's Wednesday, February the 15th. I'm Tony Haggerty, at Haggerty10 on the Twitter handle, which you all know by now. And I'm joined today by Sean Martin, at Sean Martin TCW. Now, apologies for the late start, but I was doing the latest big interview and the person only could do it at 10 o'clock today. So that's why.
Can I just check it wasn't Nicola Sturgeon?
It wasn't Nicola
Sturgeon. She was pre-booked at 11.
Yes. I'll refer the right honourable gentleman to the answer I gave. It's not Nicola Sturgeon. Okay, so I can categorically state that it wasn't Nicola Sturgeon. But yeah, so welcome everybody. Later start, but hey, there you have it. We'll crack on. Now, as we always do, first things first, Sean, latest offer, and it's a belter of an offer. Look at this, guys. You can win 2 tickets for the Celtic and Rangers Cup final at Hampden, Sunday, February the 26th. It's open to new subscribers, existing subscribers. What do you need to do? Well, you fill in a form that will drop in your email box if you're an existing subscriber. Fill that in, send it away. You'll be in the draw. New subscribers, you subscribe, costs you £1 for 3 months. Unlimited access to everything that we do on the website. You'll get the form as well. Fill it in, send it back, and you'll be in the draw. And somebody's going to win. One lucky subscriber's going to win these 2 tickets, Sean.
They are indeed, yep. And as I said yesterday, and I'll keep saying it just in case, check your spam folders if you're an existing subscriber. If you still can't find it, email me or direct messages on Twitter, and we'll try our best to make sure you can get that entry form if you're an existing subscriber and you can't find it, or if it's not been sent.
And we also say thank you to our sponsors, SENECA. The Celtic Way Morning Briefing is now sponsored by SENECA Medical Group. And as you all know by now, SENECA are the #1 hair restoration and hair transplant people in Europe. So, and you can check out SENECA and more about SENECA via the links in the video, in the description of this video. So thank you to SENECA. We appreciate it. Now, Sean, Celtic could be on their travels again, I believe.
Yep. Tony, I'm going to link this with a couple of the comments that I favorited, because there was a few comments on the later start time. We've explained why it was from a big interview point of view. So it's obviously to get you more quality content on the website and all that kind of stuff. You weren't just lying in your bed, just to clarify that. But people have got other theories. They think you're maybe the travel agents going to Japan yourself.
No, I can.
Boys are you flying to Japan to host it. Robert Gibson is Tony translating his Seneca sponsor blurb into Japanese, hence the delay. They like you away with nothing, this crowd, Tony.
Yeah, they're an unforgiving crowd, as they say. You know, but hey, I'm just thankful that I never played the Glasgow Empire back in the day, Sean. So wonderful tales from the Glasgow Empire. Crucifying people and acts that came on, but that's another thing. Ask your father or grandfather about that. But no, I'm not in Japan. As you can see, I'm here. But Celtic could be heading to Japan, Sean, to take on the likes of PSG and a glamour kind of pre-season friendly tour, if that comes about next summer. I mean, that's a esteemed company they'd be keeping then, Sean, wouldn't they?
Aye, I mean, the reports are saying it's from Spinici in Japan, but the reports are that it could be Paris Saint-Germain, Man City and Bayern Munich could be involved along with Celtic. So big European clubs. And to stress, because a couple of comments here, no, it's not been confirmed. But this is our latest report from Japan that came out last night. So no, it's not been confirmed, Michael, but it's been talked about. And I mean, Tony, I wrote about this in a newsletter. I think it was a newsletter anyway, about the kind of talk, the proposals, whatever you want to put it, that Celtic were going to go to Japan in summer 2023. And I wrote about that way back in July. And my main point back then, is still my main point now, was that it makes far too much sense for the club. So they've got to figure out a way to do it.
Yeah,
but the scheduling has to be spot on. It's got to be spot on. You can't have, Tony, a 2006 episode. You remember that?
Yeah.
They had a friendly scheduled against Yokohama F. Marinos after the start of the season and after they'd already gone to the USA on tour. You can't have that kind of thing anymore. I don't think for a minute the club, the way it's run now, would do that. And I don't think for a minute Ange Postecoglou would sign off on it. But you must schedule this right. I mean, back then, they got beat 3-0 in that friendly. Shinsuke Nakamura was left saying he felt ashamed. Gordon Strachan said they could only trust about 14 of his squad after it. They came back, they lost to Hearts, then went to Stamford Bridge to play Chelsea, then drew at Cali Thistle, having dropped points in two of their opening 4 league games. So you can't have that, and that all could have been avoided with better scheduling at the time. Yeah. So for me, it's a no-brainer. I said that in July. It's still a no-brainer with the Japanese players that are here and the appeal that Celtic have got and have reinvigorated since the Nakamura days with the arrival of Ange Postecoglou and all the Japanese players and even O as well in the South Korean market. To go to Asia, specifically go to Japan, it makes far too much sense not to do it, but it has to be at the right time.
Of course, and I think I agree with everything that you've said there, that it has to be scheduled properly, and I don't think the manager would put up with anything like what Gordon Strachan did back then. I think this would all be planned, minutiae detail. It would all be it would run like clockwork, and it would be smooth. So, hi, Brian Roberts, hi guys, hope the tour goes ahead. More revenue coming in only makes us stronger. Yeah, and let's not kid ourselves. That's why they do these things. It's about revenue, isn't it? And bringing in much needed money to the coffers. So, yeah, completely agree, Sean. Yeah, of course. I don't think Celtic would embark on a trip to the Far East if it wasn't copper bottomed and everything was running like clockwork. So, but it's possibly exciting, as you say. It's not been confirmed, might be confirmed, but it seems to be a kind of gift horse, doesn't it, Sean?
Aye, I mean it is genuinely a no-brainer. It has to. Same when they went to Sydney. It kind of had to happen. It's too big an open goal not to put the ball in the net with it. And I think again, to go back to the scheduling thing, they're talking. The reports are suggesting it could be early July, Tony. Right, early July. Now, because if you've read any of the newsletters or if you subscribe to the newsletters, even if it's just on the site, you'll maybe have read it. But last month I wrote about the Asia Cup, Tony, and the impact it could have, the kind of problem it might throw up selection wise for Celtic a year from now. So the end of January, a year from then. Now, because the Asia Cup get delayed until then, at the end of January 2024 is when it's reported to be, rather than taking place this summer like it was meant to. It means that Celtic can take the likes of Maida, Kyogo, Aaron Moy, basically any of the squad who would otherwise have been potentially away on international duty at that. So that's a big bonus of it being there. Of course. What I will say is they probably will be without Cameron Carter-Vickers and Alistair Johnston, because the CONCACAF Gold Cup is on between June the 24th and July the 16th. So if it was early July that they were going to Japan, they wouldn't be able to go. Presuming that they're called up, which you would imagine they will be. So for me, the kind of schedule will look something like this, Tony, right? So the league ends May 27th. You hope Celtic are in the Scottish Cup final, which is June the 3rd. So then after that, they maybe get a break of, 3 weeks, maybe. Back into training and then off to Japan in early July if that's the first pre-season games, maybe a wee bit earlier if it's not the first pre-season games. The Gold Cup is June the 24th to July the 16th, so probably without the two players that I mentioned, Carter-Vickers and Johnston. So maybe 1 or 2 friendlies when you return from Japan, depending how late in July the tour actually goes. And the first Premiership games are on the weekend of August the 5th and 6th. So I think that's doable. I think that is an acceptable schedule if that's the way that it falls in.
Of course it is. I mean, that's... Have you planned it, Sean? Have you sent that away to Celtic and told them that?
Subcontracted.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, correct. I would let them know your thoughts on that. But of course, it's an acceptable way to do it, and I'm sure that's been looked at as we speak. Gary Robert McMinn says Alphaville's big in Japan, should be the Parkhead anthem for those who are aware of such 80s songs. Yes, I know Alphaville's big in Japan, but yeah, it's just another exciting thought, Sean. That Celtic and the good message of Celtic's been taken to far corners of the globe, far reaches of the world. So yeah, and they did it well in Australia, and there's no reason to suggest that if the Japanese tour does come off, then that they would that would be a success as well. Guys, get your questions coming in the comment section as well. Myself and Sean will endeavour to answer any of your questions. John Hudson there, shirt sales as well. Yeah, I mean, there's all sorts of spinners from that, isn't it?
Yeah, Pete McGee comes in and says he still remembers the anger he felt after that game in 2006 that I'm talking about in Japan, when Celtic came back to play Hearts and also, as I say, get beat. But it just, see, when you look back on that, Tony, and I looked at it off of the piece in last July that I wrote when the whispers about this started happening. It just seems so ludicrous that it was ever signed off on. And I know there's money, there's money to be made, there's marketing, the Nakamura was there, all that kind of stuff. But to start the season after a tour to America, then go to Japan, then come back, play a league game, and then go to Stamford Bridge, and then come back and play another league game. It's just ludicrous when you think about it.
It just seems haphazard, doesn't it?
No.
Or a back to front way of doing stuff. But, you know, Celtic did suffer because they did drop points in the league and stuff like that. So, you know, you can look into that whatever way you will. But I just don't think Ange would put up with anything like that, I've got to be honest.
No, I don't think so. I think that the football's got to come first. I think, to be honest, with the way that the club's run now, as I say, I think I don't think they would even consider that kind of plan. I think that was an older time. That was I don't think that would happen. Not only because I just think the club are a wee bit too clued up on that now to do it. But
plus, also, if you're gearing a team up, but also hopefully to be in Champions League group stage football, it's all part. It's all about the football, isn't it? It's all about building momentum to hit the domestic season running, and then once you play in Europe, you play against that calibre of opposition. And I know that it would be pre-season friendlies, but you might come up against some of those players again. So there's no harm in getting a look at them, is there? First glance and jousting with them.
Exactly. I mean, you can only read so far into a pre-season thing, but at the same time, the way that Ange Postecoglou was speaking last pre-season, whether it was Vinyl Victoria or Rapid Vienna or Blackburn or Norwich, it was more about those wee idiosyncrasies that we were talking about at the time, but just getting them geared up to an actual competitive game, rather than just working through fitness alone, that kind of thing. Dahalo saying, fair play to the marketing team, but I'd rather be thinking of the Champions League. I suppose I could say, playing devil's advocate, why not think on both?
But I think they are thinking of the Champions League because you look at the calibre of opposition. You could conceivably draw those clubs in the group stage, couldn't you? And as I said there, you have a wee glance at them and see the players, and and I know, as I say, you don't know the competitiveness of pre-season friendlies or what they would be like, but you would get some kind of idea as to how players perform and function if you were to draw the same teams in your group. So I'm all for that. I think that's a wise move by Celtic to put themselves in that frame to go on that tour and play that calibre of club.
Aye. Benkel Duffin coming in saying, totally agree, Tony and Sean. Greg coming in just asking, when did we play a game in Japan before a Hearts fixture? 2006, 2007, the very start of the season, think they beat Kilmarnock 4-1 or 5-1 in the opening game, then went to Japan to play Yokohama F. Marinos, and then come back and get beat off Hearts, and then, as I say, went to Stamford Bridge and drew with Chelsea, and then come back up, beat St Mirren at home, and then went and drew away to Cali Thistle. So they dropped points in 4 of their opening 2 games with these random friendlies penciled in between them all.
Yeah, and I also think it would help boost the Japanese contingent in the squad, going home and seeing their families, stuff like that. These things cannot be underestimated for what it does for club morale as well. And those players have flown a long way across the world to set up a permanent base in Glasgow. So to go back over their neck of the woods and let them see family and stuff like that, I think it would be beneficial to everybody all around. It's a win-win for me.
100%. I think I called it at the time when I wrote that piece a triple threat, and it is, and I keep saying it's a no-brainer, because you've got the natural kind of appeal, the things you're talking about there, the Japanese players who will be able to basically go back to their home nation, the Celtic players. It's not just that. It's not even just that Ange Postecoglou would be going back to one of the scenes of his one of his greatest successes. It's doing both of those things, but having every one of them decked out in Celtic colours, reminiscent of Shinsuke Nakamura going there and making it all prime time. Yeah,
of course, correct. And and also you see at the end of the day, it is about financial spin-offs for Celtic, and you have to think out the box in terms of bringing money into your club. And it is, as you say, it's the ultimate no-brainer for Celtic to go to Japan, considering the players that have come from the J League and Ange Postecoglou's time spent managing Yokohama F Marinos. So I'm firmly behind it if they do it. Good to see if it gets signed off.
Yeah, Rebel comes in saying the Japanese guys would love a tour home, as most people would. Looks an awesome part of the world to visit. And then it's June mid-season in the J League, Tony. It would be, and they've not really confirmed if there's J1 League teams involved, but you would kind of hope that there would be, just like the Sydney Super Cup. It kind of makes sense to have home teams playing a part in this.
Yeah, I mean, it would seem the natural one, wouldn't it, to have Yokohama involved?
Mm-hmm.
And someone put in the comments that Yokohama holds 70,000 seats. So that would be an excellent venue to play a J League team, wouldn't it? So Yokohama would be the obvious one. So we'll see how it pans out. But yeah, something to look forward to in the summer should Celtic decide to do that. Sean, go on tour to the Far East. As you say, you've written about it. Seems a no-brainer for the two of us for the reasons we've outlined. Now, guys, any questions that you want answered, throw them up in the comment section.
John, I was going to say, John Hutchinson asked, how do I ask a question? You've asked it. You just put it in the same way as you asked that. And we'll try and answer it. Aye, Tony, so, I mean, there's a couple of comments saying they'll not just go to Japan, they'll go to Korea at some point as well. They very well might.
Probably, yeah. That would depends how long the manager sticks around for, doesn't it, in terms of where they want to take it next. But yeah, he's always...
Richard Taylor saying Ange's on a scouting mission, always thinking. I'd agree with that. I think you saw that in the transfer market the last 4 windows, especially the last 3.
Yeah, correct. Indeed. Now, Sean, on the website today, what have we got on the website today?
On the website today, we have 2 things. We've got James Daly's latest column, which is, James is a data guy. He's looked at the trends since the World Cup compared to before the World Cup, and he's identified that there is one where Celtic are actually trending downwards in the league, despite the fact that they've won 9 and drawn 1 since. Okay. And in a way, despite the fact it's a downward trend, it actually speaks to Celtic's domestic dominance, because basically it kind of reinforces that people are scared to try and score against Celtic because it might leave the door unlocked. It's basically what it is, but James kind of explains it in the advanced stats and backs it up with what it actually is in the data and stuff. So that's up there. I'll put the link into that. And there's also the latest newsletter, Tony, which was another one of yours, speaking about a certain Cameron Carter-Vickers. And I've said that in the headline, I've said it's the 2 kind of factors that combined to save his international dream. And those 2 factors naturally being, despite the perception, all those loan spells combined with his 7th and final loan spell, being at a club like Celtic and embracing it in the way that it has. And to help you explain that, you spoke to Alan Stubbs.
Yes, spoke to Alan Stubbs last week, and I asked him a myriad of questions, and he then gave me that, which I thought was decent enough to write an article on that alone, because I found it interesting that he said the 6, now 7 loan spells, or the 6 in general, were the making of Cameron Carter-Vickers, which I hadn't really thought about. And then he said that within a year he's won his place back in international recall, and he talks about that. So yeah, there's a link to that. Say, Alan's always a good guy. He's been in that movie before, and he's walked in those shoes and pulled on that jersey as a Celtic defender. So when these guys speak, you tend to listen, and they're always good value, Sean, on these kind of issues.
No, they definitely are. I'm laughing because Rebel comes back in saying, Tony planning another tour then after your jaunt to Sydney.
Yes, indeed. We'll see how that one goes. It would be good to go, I suppose. But yeah, we'll hang fire on that. Wait till it gets confirmed first, and then we'll take it from there. See if the Celtic way will be in the Far East instead of the Glasgow's East End, Sean.
Yeah. Derek Crawford with a question. He says, Tony, when's the big interview you done this morning going up? Never heard you say when. Let him write it first. Let him transcribe it, and we'll see. But it will be a good, I'll say that much. It will be an interesting one.
It will be a good one.
I mean, they all are, Tony. Don't get me wrong. They all are.
You just have to get the person talking, and yeah, he's a good talker. So I'll leave it hanging there in suspense, but we'll put it up when the fullness of time. Once Sean says I've transcribed it, but there you go.
I've got one for you, Tony. We debated doing a newsletter on this last week, but we felt as if it had been touched on it a lot last year, and just in general. Antonios comes in saying, regarding the speculation about Celtic to either the English Premier League or the European Super League. Would this be a good move for the club, especially considering the accompanied increase in income?
How long have we been speaking about a European Super League?
Mm-hmm.
How long have we been speaking about that, and it's not come to fruition? What's the chances of it coming to fruition now? I have to say, I know certain teams are pushing for this, and fair enough, but I just can't see it happening, Sean. I really don't.
No, neither can I. I mean, even with the expanded one, that they're talking about the new proposals where it's on merit, and you're like, well, aye. Why would it not be on merit? That's how every league works in football. It should work. But despite the fact that the Champions League is becoming more of a closed shop, it still ultimately is on the merit of where you finish in the league. But to me, I mean, for better or worse, Celtic are a Scottish club. So as long as the national leagues exist, I don't see a European Super League really being the avenue to go down. Much less the English Premier League, even less so the English Premier League, actually.
You saw the hostility towards that breakaway league, didn't you? And I think it would reach the same kind of levels of hostility if you try and carve it up again, just calling it a different name, And I just feel that, you know me, I'm a hopeless football romantic, and I'm like you. As long as the national leagues and national associations remain in situ, then you're going to find it hard to railroad a European Super League through. But and I think if you're going to have a European Super League, then you have to have a representation from the leagues and associations that have a gold star above them, Sean, for a start.
Well, I'm trying to find, you can see me title here, I'm trying to find a Kevin McKenna article to post in for you, because I can't find it just now, but it was last year on the site, where he kind of used his weekly column to discuss not so much a European Super League, but just a similar type of a notion to this comment here from Joe Hamilton, where he says big money would destroy Celtic. We are who we are. Basically, the main thrust of Kevin's article, if I can find it, I'll definitely put it in the comments, was that he would rather Celtic never became a plaything of whether it's Qataris, whether it's Saudis, etc. And I'll try and find it. Tony. But there's plenty of. I mean, there might well be fans out there that would like that. Kevin's not one of them. You're not one of them as a fan or a journalist. I'm not one of them as a fan or a journalist. So,
yeah, I think Celtic got a history for a reason. Not manufactured. It's not been bought, has it? So,
no.
I think a lot of traditionalists like myself wouldn't want that. As Joe Hamilton says, big money. And to Nias, we've been there, done that, and failed to get a T-shirt. Not interested in any of that. It's all about money, not football. Couldn't agree more. But for Celtic, it's always been about the football, hasn't it? We've not really been tainted by huge money or huge investment coming into the club. So, and I think the Celtic supporters wouldn't want that at all. The commenter that said we are who we are, I totally agree with that as well.
If you get any space for this kind of notion, Tony, Blind Asabat, getting left behind would actually be worse than joining?
Would it? I would ask, would it? We getting left behind where? Tell me what's happening. Then if you've got a crystal ball, Celtic aren't getting left behind at all. And I think one of the kind of caveats of Peter Lawwell's re-emergence was that Peter Lawwell was always in the corridors of power in UEFA, a big voice. So I don't think anything would happen without Peter Lawwell being actively involved in those discussions. And I've always said that I think that's where Peter Lawwell could do some good use for Celtic, do some service, and be an active voice in it. And I don't think Peter Lawwell would do anything that would be detrimental to Celtic Football Club in terms of the corridors of power within UEFA. That's why I think that role in particular, I think he could come into his own, and Celtic still having that voice and say in what's going on. You need that, and he has been there and in those kind of positions for a long time, and been Celtic's representative at those top tables. So I still think he's got a valuable role to play there, and I don't think Celtic would get left behind in anything, assuming they would join anything, you know. So I think we've got a powerful man at that top table and powerful representation. That's what I think Peter Law offers. I don't want to get into a debate about other things about Peter Law and people's personal feelings towards him. I'm just talking specifically on UEFA and European football and the voice that Celtic have at that table, and I think they still need one.
I can see your point. I think that is a massive takeaway of Peter Lawwell being back in. I'm going to put this up by Jerry, which is a fundamental issue. If it were to come to pass, the away games would be awesome, but it would cost a fortune. And he's right, because I don't think for a minute that fans are in the uppermost of the people running this as thoughts. So he's correct, Tony.
I think you have to consider that everybody's mortgage and gas and electricity bills are going up. So how would you finance that? How away games? I mean, the ordinary working Celtic fan and man or woman could not afford that, could they? Let's be honest.
Mm-hmm.
Because the prices would be astronomical, wouldn't it? We add it onto your season ticket and stuff like that on a base level alone. I just think that's a huge consideration. Because in terms of your bills and your mortgage going up, you're not earning that amount to cover it. Your wages aren't going up, as you've seen. You know, you're a big fan of the rail worker strike, teacher strike, and all that. So what are they striking over? The nurses are striking over getting more money. Mm-hmm. Bottom line. So you're seeing all these things happening in society, but wages are not commensurate with what's going on. I'm saying so. Another argument altogether, but part of it.
Pete McGee comes in saying, as a lifelong fan of Celtic, 73 years, he's invested in the club and the Scottish game as a whole. He's not interested in a league comprised of super clubs owned by self-clubs or billionaires and dodgy regimes, Tony. Does that encapsulate it for you?
Without doubt.
Except the 73 years part.
Yeah, well, indeed. But good on you, Pete. Looking good for 73, sir. That's the case. Of course it does. I think you canvass any Celtic supporter, they just wouldn't want, as you said earlier, Qatari money coming in or that kind of investment coming into the club. You know, Celtic have earned that history, they've earned that gold star. It's not been purchased, it's not been, and I've always said Scottish football might be a raw product and, you can talk about the lack of quality, but I tell you what, it's honest and it's pure. And it hasn't really been tainted by anybody coming in and pouring their millions into a particular club so that they run away with everything and they're the best. There has to be the best in any given league. Celtic are the biggest and the best because they have the most money. I get all that and they attract the bigger crowds. But it's still, I would say, competitive to an extent. Scottish football. And I just think something in the club would die if you opened it up to Qatari money or any kind of. I'm saying Qatari money because that was, any kind of multi-millionaire or sugar daddy. But I think you would kill off something that's beautiful and wonderful about Celtic Football Club if you did that. Moving forward, and people can say it's the future, it's this or that. Is it? It's not what I envisage as the future for Celtic.
A few comments to throw in. Brown Warrior saying Celtic already have a multi-billionaire chief shareholder, zero debt and over 30 million at the bank. Michael Ross saying Celtic already been left behind, and Danny, much the same, already been left behind now, can no longer afford elite players in their prime. And Charlie McGarvey, I presume that's quite a sarcastic comment, saying we would all hate to be competitive in the Champions League again. I'm sure everyone would be boycotting Parkhead for a Champions League semi-final, which I think Tony is totally missing the point, because there would presumably be no Champions League if a European Super League was to take hold.
Yeah, that's it, isn't it? So there would be all sorts of different competitions, wouldn't there? So and Michael Ross saying competitive, are you joking? I was talking about the league in general. I know Celtic have won it the past few years, but I still think that on any given day there's a competitive element to Scottish football, Sean, more than anywhere else. in Europe, I would think. Just my opinion.
Mm-hmm. No, it's fair enough. And again, Charlie McGarvey coming back. And again, I think, sorry, Charlie, I think you're fundamentally just not getting it. But so no one wants to be in Europe because the games are away, presumably in response to the potential ticket prices of a European Super League. It's nearly impossible to get a ticket for away games anyway, so the vast majority wouldn't be affected. I just disagree with that because a European Super League, every other week you'd be going away to Europe. It's not 3 times, potentially 5 if you play a couple of qualifiers. It's totally different. And as I say, if there was some sort of fan scheme where it was a lot cheaper, there was a maximum price, but it doesn't sound as if it's going to be that. No. It doesn't sound as if it would be, because I don't think fans are uppermost in the thoughts of the people that want a European Super League, is it? So to me, again, apologies, I just don't think you're getting it with that. It's nothing to do with the current Champions League. It's nothing to do with the current European away games. It would be this hypothetical European Super League where you're away every second week to a European game. It's not as affordable. Maybe you wouldn't be affected, but I'd imagine the vast majority of the Celtic fan base would be affected by that. There was a line in Kevin's piece last week, basically why Celtic are the biggest and best club, but don't forget why. It's because they're well run, because they didn't use kind of dodgy financial schemes to chase trophies, all that kind of stuff, which is why they are in the position they are today. But fundamentally, and you mentioned it, Tony, they're the biggest and best primarily in Scotland because they've got the biggest fan base.
Yeah.
And a lot still comes from ticket income, which is primarily from a working class community that follows Celtic. So, I mean, don't forget that is what I would say.
That's the beating heart of Celtic, is it not? And I think if you strip that away, then, I don't know. I personally think something would be killed off in terms of the club there if he did that, and I just something I wouldn't want to see. Scott McGill football's.
I mean, as much as I'm saying, I don't think Charlie's getting it with that one. I know Charlie comes across from Donegal, I think he said, before, so he's got better experience of actually following Celtic from out with Scotland than I do. So basically, most games are away games to him, probably in that sense. But still, fundamentally, it's never been about the Champions League away games. It's not about normal away games. It would be a European Super League where you're away every other week. So, aye.
Marquis comes in and says you can't buy the history. Derek Crawford says you can't buy the history rather than keep it all. I said it earlier, didn't I? You can't. We still get history for a reason. You can't buy that. And Marquis says it lost all its beauty when it became a cash industry. That kind of similar feelings to my own. Even the Champions League, which was the European Cup, was a wonderful tournament, but the Champions League was sacrificed. It became an aberration because it was just sacrificing the altar of cash. Let's not kid myself. I've written that. The first book I wrote, I said that it was as far removed from the original plan for the tournament. Well, so what if Bayern Munich drew Real Madrid in round 1? The best went through, and knockout. And I would love a return to those days, but the men in suits sorted it out that you can still lose Champions League games and somehow advance to the final, through the group stages or whatever. And to me, I just think that goes against all the essence and the grain of a cup competition. And I love the European Cup, its old format, and somehow I would love to go back to it, but I just know that it's not possible because too many big teams are affected, too many money teams, and the money men don't like that, do they? And they run the game, sadly. And that's why I said before, you cannot get a Cinderella story now like Celtic. Just you cannot. It would be impossible for Celtic to win the Champions League. It's been slanted so much against clubs like Celtic that you can pick the winner of the Champions League every other year. Robert Gibson, I agree, Tony, the knockout no seedings was brilliant. Of course it was brilliant. It was an exciting tournament, and you took your chance over 2 legs against whoever you drew. That was the bottom line, and the 2 teams made it through to the final, and a brilliant spectacle. But you get a second, and then they comprised the Europa League, where if you get knocked out of the Champions League, you still got that parachute into another tournament. I mean, to me, that's the essence of everything that's wrong in football, Sean. Once you get parked out of a tournament, you should stay out. You don't get any reprieve, and you don't get. And I know clubs like Celtic benefit from it in the Champions League if they exit the group stage and get into Europa League. But it's you know what, I still, it's not Celtic that made those rules, but I would rather, once you exited the tournament, that's it, it's over. But the powers that be have deemed, or the money men have deemed, that you get second chances, and it's never sat well with me in terms of the football romantic in me, or the football traditionalist in me, and it never will. And there's some Brown Warrior, rewarded for failure. There you go. Yeah, correct, Brown Warrior. That's basically what I'm trying to say, and I just it doesn't sit well with me, never will. But
okay, cool comes in saying, love how romantic Tony is so close to Valentine's Day. We established this yesterday. He doesn't believe in Valentine's Day.
Yeah, I don't believe in the commercialisation of it. Again, going back to money men and money people, another kind of thing about that. But yeah, and Michael Duffin saying it's all about the money. Of course it is. Well, I mean, it has. You cannot deny that competitions like the Champions League and other things like the European Cup have been killed because of money. The English Premier League, so, which is why I love Scottish football. I'll always talk up Scottish football, but what it lacks in so-called quality, I just think it makes up for in depth of its heart, its endeavour, its honest produce. And I will never knock Scottish football because we're going to compare it to a league that's awash with riches. Behave yourself, but give me. Let's put it this way: Liverpool Everton was on the other night, and Darvel Falkirk was also on the other night. Guess what game I watched, Sean?
Darvel Falkirk, I'm presuming.
Of course, yeah. There's no contest for me, so people can say what they like, but I rarely watch the English Premier League now. So Darvel Falkirk was interesting enough spectacle, and I would, given a choice of an English Premier League game, Scottish Cup game, or a Scottish game on either channel at the same time, the Scottish game wins all the time for me.
Pete McGee coming back in saying the romance of watching Real Madrid score 7 at Hampden is long gone, but at least the Champions League ends up as a knockout competition after the group game. Speaking of Liverpool, they scored 7 at Ibrox this season, did they not? So strictly speaking, there's still teams scoring 7 in Glasgow, but I get the point. I think we've spoken enough about the Super League and the Champions League, I think, just now, but we've got another couple just before we wrap up. Richard Taylor, is this the best team ever in the SPL? If you're including the SPL, strictly speaking, you're including Martin O'Neill's team, so I'll say no. But if it's just SPFL, then you're really up against Brendan Rodgers, because I don't think we would put Ronnie Dyler's team up there, but the Brendan Rodgers team.
As you're talking about, obviously, best Celtic team.
Well, I suppose best Celtic team would be best team in the SPFL anyway.
Listen, I think you live for the moment and you just enjoy what you're watching. It's very hard to compare eras, isn't it? Because everyone will say, or people will say, oh, this is the poorest league, the poor league when Ronnie Dyler's. But, our league is what it is. Celtic, as someone said earlier, we are who we are. You can only win the league that you compete in. So, I think Martin O'Neill's era, there was a particularly strong league, wasn't there?
Yes,
a strong era of SPFL football. So, you would maybe argue that was, and you were watching a higher calibre of player. Get all that argument. But I think you, as Celtic supporters, you live in the moment. So, the Martin O'Neill era was great. Brendan Rodgers' era was great as well. Some wonderful results. And I'm just enjoying watching Celtic under Ange Postecoglou because they've gone in a different direction and they're playing in a different way, in a different style. And I think all of those periods and eras are enjoyable for vastly different reasons.
I mean, with the SPL thing, I was being flippant because SPL finished. Obviously, SPFL only started in 2013-14. But so from that perspective, I think you're up against just this team versus Brendan Rodgers, one of the iteration of Brendan Rodgers' teams. But I like you. I think you can almost only do that once it's over. Anyway, once a certain era's over, you can look back, you can kind of try and compare and have a pub debate, all that kind of stuff.
We are still living in
Michael Duffin comes in saying it's a better style in his opinion. And Rebel says Ange's team is right up there for me.
And we spoke about it last season that the Premiership and League Cup double will stand out for a lot of people, and it will be fondly remembered for that very reason, because they weren't supposed to win the Premiership or the League Cup, were they? It was supposed to be a rebuilding season, but as Callum McGregor told me that day, they don't do rebuilding seasons at Celtic, So and it was true. So I think that's why it was celebrated the way it was, because it was just this guy came in and it was just a breath of fresh air, and they liked what they saw, and they're still liking it, and we're still in the midst of Andy's era, so just enjoy it.
That kind of tied in with Derek Crawford's question, which was, is the current squad playing the most exciting and fast-paced football you have ever seen? And that was to all the group, and I've had a wee mini discussion about that in the comments, I can see, but kind of ties into that, doesn't it, Tony? Scott McGill, any update on Kyogo's scan yesterday? No, just that he had it, didn't it, Tony?
Yeah, and
again, I'd expect Friday before you hear anything about it. Just personally,
the manager will address it at the presser. I would have thought on Friday, or whenever he chooses to do his presser. So yeah, I fully expect to hear about that then as well. So the short answer, Scott's no, but you never know. Somebody might get a hold of him before that and put it up on whatever platform.
Charlie coming in saying 100%, Sean, this requires a pub discussion. See you in the social club on Saturday. Love a social club, Tony. Too few of them left.
I think everything requires a pub discussion. Yes, so let's all adjourn to the nearest social club. Whatever that may be.
I've favourited this just to put it up earlier on. It was when I was putting up the articles, and Michael Duffin says all the articles are great.
That's very kind, Michael. Thank you very much. Very kind, very complimentary. We try our best, as you can see every day. Even though we're around about 10ish, today was 11. We do try our best. We try and come up with we try and stimulate debate and chat and discussion. And as I've said before, we don't take ourselves too seriously either. So yeah.
TJ coming in, just one for the end. And finally, did you watch the Celtic love tweets with the players? I did. Tony had watched it before the video yesterday, I think, but I hadn't. I watched it after I came off. I thought it was quite funny. A couple of them didn't really know what to take seriously and what not to. Because Big Joe Hart, I thought the tweet he read out about using Head and Shoulders, and then next thing you know, you're tipping bars of soap round the post and stuff. I thought that was funny, but he read it out as if it was deadly serious.
Yeah, he did. Listen, it's just the warped Celtic supporters' humour at times, isn't it? But at least they entered into it in the spirit that it was meant. And I just laughing at. I think the Japanese players were just like, my goodness, there's hero worship, and there's Daisen Maeda in particular. It was just like people telling them that they loved them. I just found it all very kind of hard to deal with, but it's
the Cameron Carter Vickers one. Obviously, whatever one of the Celtic media team edited the video, knew it was, like, could tell it was quite a creepy joke. So they zoomed into his face as if it was a horror film. But Cameron Carter Vickers, I don't think really didn't know what it meant. No. I live in your walls is exceptionally creepy. He's just like, it sounds positive, so why? Thank you.
Hence the expression, a club like no other. The fans are just passionate and they care, and they love their heroes, and they just don't miss the opportunity to tell them, and sometimes I guess for players that can be quite overwhelming at times when these sort of things come through, and and it was fun, and it was great to see the reaction. But as you see, some of the messages are just like, wow, it's hero worship. Scott McGill, good shout. Tony Love tweets are brilliant. Cal McLaughlin, it's and I did like the Joe Hart one where he's tipping bars of soap round the post. I just envisaged every Celtic supporter doing that from now on in when they're in the shower. It was quite fun.
There'll be a heap of people up in A&E with Kyogo then, if that's the case. I take it.
So but it's just it never ceases to amaze you the kind of the mindset of the supporters and what they think. So it's terrific, and it was great knockabout stuff, wasn't it? On the most romantic day of the year, Sean, allegedly.
Certainly was. I'm just going to throw this up before we wrap it up, and it's Antonio's just saying might be missing something, but did it really take days for Kyogo to get a scan? Other sports teams get scans done for injured players the night of the game. Anshid says after the game it was going to be the next morning he was getting it, but the report that came out yesterday was he was getting further scans, further tests, which suggests to me he was getting reassessed, that kind of thing, rather than it took them that long.
Yeah, Yeah, right. I say, well, if we don't know before, we'll certainly know on Friday. Bottom line, because you will be asked. So it's yeah. I mean, it's of course everybody wants to know, but listen, in the fullness of time, it'll all come out.
Yep.
45 minutes, Sean. There's a first half of or a second half, whatever way you want to. Great show again. No, we'll be back to the normal time round about tennis. As I say, I was otherwise detained with a big interviewee, so we'll make that apparent in the fullness of time as well. But thanks for tuning in at 11 later time, but we won't make that a habit. That was just a one-off. But before we go, Sean, there's still time to take advantage of our latest offer, because what a fabulous prize this is. And hopefully you'll see myself and Sean there. And if you do, please say hello and we'll thank you for your subscription. But we're giving away 2 tickets for the Celtic and Rangers League Cup final, Sunday, February 26th at Hampden. You could be on your way to Hampden. It's open to new and existing subscribers. Just look out for that entry form, drop it into your email inbox, fill in the form, send it back. You'll be in the draw. And new subscribers cost you £1 for 3 months of full access to everything that's written on the website. And you'll also get the same form, fill that in, send it back. And you're in the draw for the tickets. And one lucky subscriber is going to win these, Sean. And the entries close at midnight or 11:59 on the 22nd of February. The draw will be done on the 23rd. And you can be there at Hampden, courtesy of the Celtic Way. You've got to get involved in this, guys. You've got to send those forms back. And hopefully see you at the cup final, assuming that our requests get accepted.
Of course,
yes, indeed. And we also say thank you to SENECA, Celtic Way Morning Briefing, now sponsored by SENECA Medical Group, and they are the #1 in Europe for hair transplants and hair restoration treatments. And you can find out more about SENECA via the links in the descriptions in this video. So we say thank you to them. We appreciate it. Guys, thanks for that. It's always, those one-game weeks are always difficult to try and keep up something fresh every day and talk about Celtic. But we endeavour to try. We like a good laugh as well. But you guys keep it going with your comments. We always appreciate it. I say it a lot, but we've built up a wee wonderful community on this Celtic Way Morning Briefing, and we really enjoy it. We hope it sets you up for the rest of the day. A wee bit later today, but hey, there you go. That's just the nature of the journalistic beast at times, Sean, where you have to fit in with someone else's plans, and that's fine. I'm all for that. But there you have it. Guys, thanks very much. Have a wonderful Wednesday. We'll see you all again to do it all again tomorrow.
Cheers, Tony. Cheers, guys.